Let me just start by saying I'm featuring the TikToks from three different accounts of people who have detransitioned. They are very brave and they have really, spilled their heart to just warn other people against this ideology, big pharma, and this push to force people into treatments that they don't need or want. And they're having a lot of, bad side effects from that, especially when they, change their mind a few years later. So please just really appreciate these three individuals, for really putting it out there and putting themselves out there for abuse. But please do not harass them. I'm going to hide their name, but please just don't harass them. Thank you.
Hey y'all, so I got out of my haircut, because my hair was driving me nuts, and I shaved it because I'm tired of watching my hair thin out, and it's less distressing if I shave it. So when I talk about being too far gone, I don't really know what else to call it, this is what I mean. This is how deep my voice is. It's gotten deeper over time, and it's settled. This is what I mean by hair loss. And it just keeps getting worse. It keeps thinning. It keeps receding backwards. And I'm not exactly sure that's coming back. Those are the main things when I talk about being androgenized to a point of no return. I really don't see those being fixable. So that's when I talk about, just kind of staying how I am, regardless of how I feel. That's why, just because I don't really see me personally being able to come back from what's happened so far. So I hope that's a little explanatory. This is what happens when you give a woman testosterone. This for 5 years. This is what happens, essentially.
This is so sad. This person's obviously very young, and so to have been on testosterone for 5 years, I would say probably a teenager when they started taking it. Too young really to be making those kind of lifelong decisions. And now they're having to deal with the consequences of that. And taking the testosterone for someone who's born a woman, that's going to cause issues, like hair loss, sterility, deepening of the voice, and other things. Because they were never allowed the chance to fully evolve into an adult woman because these drugs kept them from doing that. So they're gonna fight with this their entire life, and it's just really sad that there wasn't someone there to say, no, stop what you're doing, and think about this in the long term.
Greetings, friends! Day 219 of being a detransitioned person who previously identified as a trans woman gender identity. Lately, I've been unpacking why it was so easy to lean into self-rejection and convince myself it was self-acceptance. As a kid, I didn't get positive attention, affirmation, reinforcement. I experienced horrible things that no one should ever have to. I became a version of myself that I was so ashamed of I would do anything to get away from it. And when I discovered my genuine self for the first time a couple years back, I was scared of him. I was scared to see how hurt he was. And to deal with unpacking that hurt, I had to develop a new kind of armor. My abuser was a woman. I found power in femininity. I developed a feminine personality. And it felt good to lean into that personality. I got the affirmation and attention I never got as a kid. But all the mannerisms, labels, and hormones just rejected that little boy even further.
This person was obviously abused as a child. By their own admission, suffered, pretty horrible abuse. Instead of getting, therapy and the mental health help that they needed for probably post-traumatic stress disorder, they were pushed into changing their gender in hopes that would make them, feel better, because they didn't like themselves. They didn't like the boy they were, because that boy got abused by a woman. And so by thinking, I'll become a woman and then no one else can abuse me. And this is common, with both girls and boys that get abused. But it's just really sad that he had to go through all that. And it looks like he's on a good road back. And I'm glad. I'm really happy for him.
I'm angry. What's going to happen to the kids and the youth? And there's so many people who regret this. there's more and more and more coming out, and younger too, on puberty blockers, that been on puberty blockers. And I read one that I think he went on puberty blockers at 16, and now he's like 20 or 21, and he is like suicidal because his penis won't grow anymore. Like, it does damage. It makes me so angry. And what we're gonna get is a generation that's screwed up. That are screwed up in like 10, 15 years. Wait, not even. I think it's accelerating quite quickly. When we get 30, 40-year-olds that are going to be like, what the f did I do when I was 16 or whatever, like, and you can't go back. You can't go back. I'm sad for myself, of course. Not in a victim kind of way, but in like, this process of mourning who I was is touch and go. So, but I'm sad for humanity and the children and what's gonna happen when they're screwed up. We're gonna see what's gonna happen, and I really, really hope that all these professionals get their friggin' karma, because I know that some of them don't realize, and some of them might be brainwashed and whatever, but some of them know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. Cash cowing.
This really just, he really breaks my heart. I feel so sorry for him. He's the reason I actually decided to do this video. I ran onto his TikTok randomly. And, I mean, he feels so bad, and he's so worried about everyone else. And, he's right. It's like, they're just pushing. Guess who's making the money, Big Pharma. They push these drugs the same as they push any other type of drug. But now I'm going to show you some examples of how Big Pharma is taking advantage of these people. In a New York Post article, January 10th, 2023, gender ideology is a boon to Big Pharma and a threat to parental rights. Parents across the nation are facing a new threat to their children, the transgender-industrial complex. For different but sometimes overlapping reasons, the medical establishment, Big Pharma, the culture industry, and government agencies are leading our kids down a narrow road of transitioning, whether parents like it or not. For the private economy actors especially, the spread of gender ideology is a big boon to their bottom line. To be sure, people experiencing gender dysphoria deserve compassionate care, but that's different from enabling minors in a vulnerable state of mind in these sexually confusing times to irreversibly alter their bodies with the latest in medical and pharmaceutical science. Hydroxyprogesterone acetate, a common drug in gender-affirming therapy, has long been used to chemically castrate sex offenders. Another widely used medication is Lupron, a controversial hormone blocker. Lupron was initially developed to lower testosterone levels in men with prostate cancer, effectively chemically castrating them. It is now used as a puberty blocker in the booming business of transitioning children. Lupron manufacturer made $726 million on the drug alone in 2018. They've also joined with other major pharmaceutical companies in lobbying to get drug prices high while virtue signaling about diversity and inclusion. Transgender people require lifelong medical support, making them ideal customers for the healthcare industry, and the well-documented phenomenon of peer contagion, kids pressuring other kids into thinking they're all trans, ensures an endless supply of consumers. In one case, a Pakistani immigrant and devout Muslim named Ahmed checked his teenage autistic son into a Seattle hospital after he'd been struggling with severe depression. Due to a COVID-19 policy, Ahmed couldn't stay with his son. In his absence, hospital staff and social workers manipulated the boy into thinking his problems stemmed from being a girl trapped in a boy's body. In Washington, minors can consent to gender-affirming therapy at 13 years old. Knowing social workers would conflate protest with abuse, Ahmed promised to play along with the transitioning, collected his son, and fled the state with his family. Ahmed's son is now living happily in his natural sex as a boy. In Pakistan, people flee from terrorists. In the United States, they flee from social workers. In our brave new world, a culture of depravity preys on children. The culture insists that the state and medical professionals revoke guardianship from adults to whom kids were accidentally born. The implications of this are terrifying, yet neither political party seems to have enough courage to speak for the sanity and the safety of American families. Meanwhile, Big Pharma cashes in handsomely. So please, if you're a parent of a child who's questioning their gender identity, make sure you really look into all the options. Make sure you get some mental health therapy first off. That's probably most important. And then if you're an underage minor who's, confused, thinking, well, maybe I'm a boy, maybe I'm a girl, I don't know. Please, listen to some people other than just the students at your school. Don't just always rely on a person who's already trans. It's important that you decide what's good for you, not what's good for your friends, what you think other people might think about you. This is your life. Live it the way you want. Thank you. I hope you got something out of this. And take care. Be nice to everyone. Peace out.